LR 1.1.
Welcome everyone. Many of you would have known Lee Chin Ling when she was an REW student last year, and I know you're looking forward to hearing from her today. At Student Services, we felt that you'd be interested in hearing about her impressions of university life, because soon you'll be starting at university yourselves. So welcome Ling, and thanks for coming here today.
Thanks very much, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. It's great to be back here at REW and to be able to share some of my experiences with you today. As you know, I've just finished my first year at uni, and it's been terrific. At the same time though, it hasn't been easy, especially at the beginning. So really, I'm here to talk about some of the difficulties I've had in my first year, what life is like at uni, and the kind of things you're expected to do. And then I'll talk about how I've tried to solve those problems, and I'll try to give you some tips on what you can do. From my experiences at uni, I'd say that there are basically two main problems that all students face. The first is an academic problem. Students have to be responsible for their own learning. The second is not really academic, but it's still very important, feeling lonely and lost in the new university world. Okay, so the first problem, being responsible for your own learning. What does this mean? Well, it means that at uni, you have to make sure that you do all the work and organize your time. I don't know about you, but when I was at high school, teachers would set homework and then ask to see it the next day, or maybe a few days later. And at my school anyway, teachers would keep asking for the homework until you gave it in. They'd get angry if it was late or if you forgot. However, at uni, if you don't do the work, then no one's going to ask you again. They give you a deadline. You know, that's the date you have to hand in the work. So you get this deadline, and they just expect you to submit the work on time. And if you don't submit the work, then that's your problem. No second chances. You get a 0. They certainly won't come and find you. At first, I thought they didn't care, or maybe they were too busy. But really, it's not that at all. Lecturers at uni think of you as an adult, not as a high school student. So it's your responsibility to do the work. At university, everyone just leaves you alone. So, how can you become responsible for your own learning? It's not easy, and I found it really hard. But I think the key thing is to be organized. And here are my tips about being organized. Number 1, write all your deadlines in a diary or on a calendar. Sometimes, a lecturer might give you a deadline that's 2 months away. And you think, oh yeah, that's lots of time. No need to worry. But if you're not careful, it's so easy to forget the deadline and suddenly you've missed it. So if you write it in your diary, you can remind yourself. There's less chance you'll forget something. Okay, now, number 2, organize your notes. We get so many handouts and copies of things in classes and lectures. For example, every day when I get home, I go through the notes. Do the notes make sense to you? If not, then you need to talk to a classmate to check what it was about. You've got to organize and review your notes regularly. If you don't, you'll have a huge folder full of bits of paper. You won't know what to do with it all, believe me. It takes me about 30 minutes every night, and now it's become a habit. Okay, number 3, organize a study group. Does anyone know what a study group is? No? Well, it's when 4 or 5 students on the same course meet regularly to help each other. Being part of a study group is one of the best ways to be responsible for your learning. For example, my study group meets every Wednesday afternoon. Before we meet, we decide what we're going to talk about. Last week, there was a really difficult reading we had to do before our tutorial. So, we all read it and then talked about it in the group. It really helped me. And in the tutorial, I was able to say something and ask a couple of questions. It felt so good. So, those are the academic issues I found most difficult. And like I said, you have to be responsible for your own learning and how you use your time. You must be organized. Moving on to my second major point, feeling lonely and lost in a new university. You know, uni is so different from high school, or a language school, or even from work. Everything is new. You probably won't know very many people, and you'll probably have a lot more free time than you had before. It's really easy to feel lonely. So, my tip number 1, make an effort to participate in some of the social aspects of uni life. It isn't just about study, so try to enjoy yourself and have some fun. There are lots of different sports and leisure clubs you can join, and cultural events, like films and concerts where you meet people. 'Cause if you're happy and have friends, the chances are that you'll be a more successful student. That's my feeling anyway. Of course, you need to keep a balance between your social life and study life. I mean, there are so many things to do on campus. It's easy to have too much fun. Moving on to tip number 2, form a study group. I know I mentioned this before as a way of helping you be more responsible for your own learning. But there's another positive point about the study group. You can make friends with the people in the group. Sometimes you could go out together to a cafe or the cinema or whatever. So, if I can just go back over my main points, one of the most important things I have to say to you today is that to be successful in your university studies, you really have to be self-disciplined and organized and take responsibility as an independent learner. And at the same time, remember, being at uni is also a time for meeting new people and making new friends. Alright, that brings me to the end of my talk. But I'm sure you have lots of questions, and I'm happy to try and answer them for you.